Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some summer reads. Not all of these are books that I have read. Some of them are books that I would like to read, but I tried to pick things that had a very summertime vibe to them. So either they take place during the summer, there's a lot of like water or ships or something like that, or in the case of some of the fantasy ones, we have like mermaids, and again, that little bit of ocean feel to it. I'm going to cover 3 major genres in this video. We're going to have contemporary, because there are so many contemporary books set in the summertime. We're going to have some historical fiction and also some fantasy. And I will put timestamps below so that you can find the various genres that we're talking about in this video. All right, first up, we have to talk about Irene Hannon and her Hope Harbor series. This one just definitely feels like a summertime book. I don't think all of these books take place during the summer, and I've only read the first one, but I absolutely loved this book, and it's Hope Harbor. These are stories that are set on the harbor where there's water, and it feels very beachy and fun, and these stories are phenomenal. This first one was amazing, and I cannot wait to get into the next one. Next, we have The Summer of Yes by Courtney Walsh. Summer is literally in the title of this book. I haven't read this, but I've read about 4 or 5 other Courtney Walsh books and really enjoy her writing. This book is about 2 women who end up deciding to take on a summer where they say yes to the things that they want to do. And sounds like there's a bit of romance and different things going on in this book, and a lot of like female friendship. This is one that I am actually really hoping to read this summer, if at all possible. I didn't get a chance to read it last summer, but maybe this summer will actually make it onto the list. I'm going to go through a few novels by the same author, and that is Denise Hunter. She has quite a few books that take place during the summer. This one is The Summer of You and Me, another one that I have not read yet, but I would love to actually fit this in this summer because, again, it's another summer titled book. And this one starts out with a woman who thinks that she sees her late husband. So her past comes back in a fury, and she is very confused as to what is going on. So this is looking into what is happening there, and there's also, of course, a romance. And then we have Summer by the Tides, and this takes place in Sea Haven, North Carolina. And this one's more focused on like family secrets and stuff like that, but also again with a bit of that romance flair. And last, by Denise Hunter, we have a novel, Proposal. This one I actually read, I think, 2 summers ago, if I'm not mistaken. This was the very first book that I read by Denise Hunter, and it definitely kicked off a love of her stories. This book is really fun. We have the main female character who is so sunshiny and bubbly and funny, and then we have a male lead that's a little more on the grumpy side, but you kind of find out what's going on there. But she's a novelist, and it says on the back, when Western novelists Sadie Goodwin must pen a romance novel to rescue her lackluster sales, there's only one tiny problem. She's never been in love. This book was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. And like I said, it has led to me wanting to read everything that Denise Hunter has written. Another recent one that I read was If All Else Sells by Emma St. Clair. Now this is another really humorous one, and there is a sailing trip that takes place during the course of this book. It's not the entire book, but there is a sailing trip that is one of the main focal points of what happens during the book. And you know, sailing, summertime, that kind of goes hand in hand. And this was just a quick, fun read. The main characters were fantastic. Their chemistry was really, really good. And I had a great time with this one. Another one that the title just makes me think of summer is Gelato at the Villa. And this is by Robin Jones Gunn. Now, I have not read any books by Robin yet, but I've heard amazing things about this series. This is actually, I think, book 2 in the Suitcase Sisters series. These are definitely stories of female friendship. We have friends who travel to different locations, so each book takes place in a different location, and I think also with a different set of friends. So of course, this one takes place in Italy, which is so much fun. I think Italy would be an amazing place to get to go see, and come on, Italian food. And on the back, it actually has an Italian saying, which is, whoever finds a friend finds a treasure. And that is so very true. And I can't wait to read this series and see these friendships. These books sound so great, so cozy, so fun. And like I said, this one just makes me think summer. And lastly, for the contemporaries, we have Lulu's Cafe by T.I. Lowe. I have not read anything by T.I. Lowe, but I've heard great things about this book, and it definitely feels summery to me. I mean, the girl is sitting here on a dock at the edge of the water. Now, this one seems to have some fairly deep themes in it. It actually says on the back, one of the quotes taken from the book says, "Some scars don't ever heal," she whispered, "no matter how awfully bad you want them to. They're just too deep." And then down a little lower, there's actually a blurb from Christy Whitson Harvey that says, "A moving portrayal of the resilience of the human spirit." But this is about a woman who is fleeing a violent past, and she finds herself in Rivertown. And it's there that she is kind of trying to recreate herself and do what she can to leave that past behind and move forward. All right, and now we're going to move on to historical fiction, and I have quite a few books in here as well. And the first one of those is actually a book about pirates. This is The Red Siren by M.L. Tyndall, and this is the first book in her series, Charlestown Bells. Now, I read this series a really long time ago. I cannot remember everything that happens in these, but I do remember them being really fun and the characters being incredible and the action and the adventure with the pirates. It was just really great. I would love to go back and reread these because it has been so long. I think it's been probably like 10 or 15 years since I read this series. This is a little bit older series, but pirates and adventure, that never gets old. And what's really fun about this is it's actually the female lead who is the pirate. It says on the back, "Worlds collide when a lady pirate meets a godly naval captain." So I definitely recommend giving these a try. They are so great. Another that I have not read is Those Who Trespass by Sydney F. Gray. But isn't this cover so cool? I mean, we have our female main character, I assume, here in the foreground, and then the ocean and a ship beyond her. Just really cool. And again, that ocean vibe. I don't know if this takes place in the summer or not, but it just feels summery. This takes place in 1818, and it says all she can remember is the worst thing that happened. I want to find out what happens in this book. I would love to read this as soon as possible. If not this summer, then definitely try to read it this fall. This one just looks really good. A book that I actually read last summer was Souls of Lost Lake by Jaime Jo Wright, and this actually opens up in July, so very much a summer book. This one says on the back, "To save the innocent, they must face an insidious evil." This one had some pretty intense stuff in it, but this is one of Jaime Jo Wright's dual timeline stories where you have a historical timeline and a story that impacts the current timeline, and you see how those cross over. But this one was really interesting. It felt very haunting and very creepy in certain parts. But this was the first book I read by her, like I said, and this is the one that really set me off on wanting to read her entire backlist. I enjoy her writing so much. I love the dual timeline. I love the atmosphere and that little bit of like what's happening, creepy feeling that you get in her books. So she writes gothic suspense, and I would definitely recommend her books if you haven't read any of them yet. Another book that takes place during the summer is Of Golden Shadows by Michelle Greep. I read this one, I believe, also later last year. I can't remember 100%, or maybe it was earlier this year. I don't remember for sure. But this one is about a woman who is an Egyptologist, and it takes place in 1888 Victorian England. And of course, she's wanting to be an Egyptologist, and she's so interested in this, but during that time, that wasn't really something that really women were in, and so she was having to overcome a lot of that bias against her being able to actually do that work, even though she was very, very good at it. But this one had a lot of action, adventure, it had a great romance, and there was a little bit of mystery in there as well. And the way she tied in all of the like ancient history of past Egypt and those artifacts, it was very fun, very well done. There's another book in this series that I'm definitely hoping to read, but this one was really good and would be a fun summer read. This next one, I don't know if it fully takes place during the summer, but it opens up in June, and there are islands involved, so it feels like it fits pretty well with a summer vibe, and that is Miss Over the Channel Islands, and this is by Sarah Sundin. This is one of her latest releases, so this is a new book. I haven't read this one yet, but it's part of a loosely interconnected standalone. I think this one is still part of that. I've read the first 3 in that series, and every single one has been 5 stars. I have loved them. She does an amazing job with her books. This looks great, just like all of her other ones, and it takes place on the Channel Islands. So again, a little bit of that oceany island vibe, and it opens up in June. So again, like I said, her books usually tend to span a period of time, and they take place during World War II. So sometimes there's months and even years that go by in her books, but this does open in summer. Another one that had a lot of ship-related things and naval things is Against the Tide by Elizabeth Camden. I've talked about this one several times before, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but it was phenomenal. It was the first book I read by Elizabeth Camden, and she did an incredible job with the characters. Our main female character in this is actually a translator, and she works for this guy, helping him out with some things, and that pulls her into mystery, intrigue, and a lot of danger. There is a lot of adventure that happens in this book, and I really enjoyed it. Another one with ships and coastal vibes is Of Flaw and Scorn, and this is by Vera Bell, and this takes place on the Irish coast in 795 AD, and there are Vikings involved. So Ireland, Vikings, doesn't get much better than that. It looks like a lot of adventure in this. It looks like a lot of overcoming of things that is happening, especially in our main female character's life, because it appears that she goes through a lot. She's actually taken into captivity as a slave as a young girl. But this is all about her growing up, overcoming all of her life circumstances, and eventually coming through to a good place on the other side. And the last one I don't physically have because it's not been released quite yet, but that is the second book in the Once Upon a Time in Texas series by Karen Whitmire, and that is Part of Your World, and it is a retelling in Texas of The Little Mermaid. It will be released on June 16th, so not long at all to wait. It comes out next week, and you'll be able to get your hands on it. But her first book in that series was a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it was incredible. I can't wait to get the second one. Karen Whitmire's books are always so good. She writes amazing historicals, and some of them where she combines a historical with a fairy tale retelling like this series. All right, and now we're on to the fantasy books for this video. And first we have The Legend of the Firefish by George Brian Polivka. Now this is part of the Trophy Chase trilogy. I read the first book in this series a very long time ago, but what I remember of this first one, it was an incredible adventure. There were pirates once again involved, but it's more of a kind of fantasy feel to it. It says that this is a timeless tale of the pursuit of faith and honor, and it's all about Packer, who is trying to bring prosperity back to his poor fishing village. And so he stows away on a pirate ship to go off on this adventure with them in order to hopefully help out his village. And there's actually a woman that he loves that's back in his village, and she gets pulled into her own adventure. It says, in her determination not to lose Packer, she leaves home to follow the man she loves, but is soon swept up in a perilous adventure of her own. So this one definitely feels summery to me and lots of adventure. Next we have Genie by Elizabeth Joy. This one is a bit of a chunky book, but one I am super excited to get into. So when you think of genies, you think of maybe Arabia, sands, desert, and that all feels very summery to me. So I picked this one for the list for that reason. But I believe this one takes place during contemporary times, but there is a genie involved. So of course, fantasy vibes, 100%. There's also some kind of intense themes in this one, but it looks really, really good, and I am excited to dive into it. And it says on the back, he lost his past, she lost her future, truth may be their only salvation. And it also says, days before saying I do, Jasmine Stone's life is flipped upside down. With a shattered heart and an empty bank account, her sister Charlie convinces her to take that would-have-been honeymoon to Greece. And that is where she's going to meet our genie. Next up, we have some kind of more mermaid books. And the first one of those is The Mermaid's Tale by L.E. Richmond. This is the first book in the Chronicles of the Undersea Realm. I've heard that this is a really fun story, and I've heard that book 2 is fantastic as well. So if you like this one, there's more where that came from, and I'm excited to read this. I haven't read it yet, but it's mermaids. It's gonna be fun. And this says that there's a family curse, a lost treasure, unrequited love, and a race against time. So I'm excited to see what happens in this. It's not very thick, so if you're looking for a quicker read, this would definitely fit that. And onto a gender-flipped retelling of The Little Mermaid, we have Hunting Sirens by Mary Meekum. This is the second book in her Legends of Neverland series. I haven't read all of her books, but I am looking forward to binging this series. I've read other books by her and really enjoyed them. This one says, she was destined to hunt sirens to extinction, but can she complete her mission before one of them captures her heart? And this is really interesting too, because it says, trapped on an island nation surrounded by bloodthirsty sirens, the starving people of Haven Harbor are losing hope. Treva, a deaf blacksmith immune to the tempting call of the sirens lurking in the deep, steps into the perilous role of siren hunter. So she's unaffected by the sirens' calls because she can't hear them, which makes her the perfect person to save her people. But then she meets one of them. And the last Little Mermaid retelling I don't physically own, but it is out, so you don't have to wait for it. It's called Stardust and Silence by Ashley Willingham, and it's a space fantasy gender-flipped Little Mermaid retelling, so Little Mermaid set in space. This sounds like such a fun concept. I'm looking forward to reading this. I've read one of her other fairy tale retellings, Dreams and Dragon Wings, and really enjoyed that. So I'm sure this one's going to be great as well. And Little Mermaid retelling. Next we have The Secrets of Avigdor, and this is by Chani Hobson. I don't know if that's exactly the right pronunciation, but I hope so. This one has quite a lot thrown together. There are dinosaurs in this, there are pirates, there's adventure. I don't even know what all's going to happen in this book, but it looks incredible, and I've heard amazing things about it. People have been raving about how good this book is. It says on the back, stranded by design, hunted by legends, and saved by faith. But yes, pirates, island, dinosaurs. I want to find out what happens. The next one is a blended Snow White and Robin Hood retelling, and that is Fairest Hunter by M.K. Felix. I have not read this yet, but it looks so much fun. I've heard incredible things about it, and Robin Hood, Snow White, Forest, it kind of felt a little summery to me, and so I went ahead and added it to this list. This says on the back, a rebellious huntress, a cursed prince, a coup to change it all. So yes, I am excited to see how our author blends Snow White and Robin Hood into this incredible adventure. And last, kind of sticking with that pirate theme, we have The Webs We Weave by Cassandra Grace, and this is the first book in her Pirates and Politicians series. This one says, a rescue mission is no time for romance. So it's a good thing they didn't marry for love. This looks very interesting, and it looks like there's some humor. Just that one line makes me think there's humor in here. It says, as the illegitimate daughter of a pirate, Evangeline's greatest aspiration is to be left alone. Driven from her hometown and her livelihood, she finds herself caught up in a world of schemes and politics. This is her chance to finally make something of herself, but why should she fight for a kingdom that's never cared for her? And it looks like our main male lead is a prince who lost his throne, and they end up thrown together, and it says, such different people should never cross paths, let alone merge them. But after getting captured by pirates, Evangeline's and Alistair's hasty plan to save their lives unites them in matrimony. This one looks fun. I'm excited for this. I hope I can read this soon. This looks really good. Maybe I can read this in July or August. I'm hoping so. This would be a fun summer read. My June list is way too full to take on anything else, but gotta read this one soon. And that's it. I think we covered 24 different books that are kind of summery vibes in one way or the other. I hope that this gives you some good recommendations or ideas of books that you can maybe pick up to add to your summer TBR. And if you do read any of these, or if you have read any of these, let me know in the comments below what you thought of them. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you all so very much. And as always, remember to keep following your dreams and believing in the magic of this thing called life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.